What's the most rebellious teenager thing you've ever done? When I was 15, I lived in my fifth foster home with this guy named Frank, who screamed at everyone and literally locked the fridge at night with a padlock. I'm not even kidding, he'd count the slices of bread every morning to make sure nobody took an extra. One day, I just couldn't take it anymore and walked out. But I didn't go to the streets like most kids would. I went to school and never left. See, our school had this weird half-finished basement that nobody ever went to. It was full of old desks and broken computers from like the 90s. I found this storage closet down there that had a working outlet and an old army cot that the janitors forgot about. There was even this tiny mini fridge that still worked somehow, so I moved in. Every morning, I'd get up at 5:30 and shower in the boys' locker room before anyone showed up. I kept my toothbrush and deodorant in my regular locker upstairs. I'd buy those travel-size shampoo bottles from the dollar store and hide them in my backpack. The gym teacher always left the locker room unlocked because he got there super early to set up equipment. I survived off school lunches and vending machine snacks, plus I got this job at the 24-hour grocery store down the street, stocking shelves from midnight to 6 a.m. on weekends. The manager didn't ask too many questions about my age because I was a good worker and showed up on time. Nobody at school had any clue. I kept straight A's, made jokes in class, played junior varsity basketball, and even joined student government because it looked good on college applications. My English teacher, Miss Harper, always said I had potential and should apply to good universities. If only she knew I was living in a closet. The crazy part is I was actually happier than I'd been in years. No more walking on eggshells around Frank, no more getting screamed at for breathing too loud. I could do my homework in peace in the library, then sneak back downstairs after the custodians finished cleaning around 10 p.m. This went on for 7 whole months. 7 months of living at school and nobody noticed. I got really good at avoiding the security cameras and timing when different staff members would be around. I even figured out how to reset the motion sensors in the basement so they wouldn't go off when I moved around at night. But then, one day in April, the head janitor, Gary, smelled something funky coming from the basement. He thought maybe a pipe had burst or something was rotting down there. He started checking all the storage rooms with his master key. When he opened my closet, I was sitting there doing calculus homework on the cot. Gary just stared at me for like 30 seconds, then he goes, "How long have you been living down here, kid?" I told him the truth. 7 months. He didn't yell or call security right away. He just sat down on an old desk chair and asked me why. So I explained about the foster homes, and Frank, and the locked fridge. Gary listened to everything, then he said something I'll never forget. "You know what? You're the cleanest, most responsible homeless kid I've ever met. You didn't trash anything or cause problems, but this can't continue." Instead of calling child services right away, Gary went to the school counselor, Ms. Jackson. She was this young woman who actually cared about kids instead of just collecting paychecks. When she heard my story, she got really angry, not at me, but at the system that let me slip through the cracks. Turns out Ms. Jackson knew this assistant principal, Mrs. Rivera, who had this little guest house on her property that she wasn't using. It was just sitting there empty because her college son had moved out. Mrs. Rivera offered to let me stay there temporarily while the school district figured things out. The district ended up creating this hardship grant that paid for my living expenses. They said it was cheaper than the lawsuits they'd face if word got out that a student had been homeless in their building for 7 months without anyone noticing. Plus, my grades were so good, they wanted to keep me in their graduation statistics.